Ambassador Scathun stared out the viewport as their diplomatic vessel entered Earth's atmosphere. His four hearts beat rapidly with anxiety. After centuries of watching humans from afar, the Galactic Diplomatic Courts had finally decided it was time for first contact. The reason? Humans had somehow managed to develop faster than light travel, despite their young civilization. "Are the calming herbs prepared?" Scathun asked, turning to his medical officer. "Yes, Ambassador. Everyone has been given a double dose," replied Trilith, adjusting her ceremonial robes. "Though I worry it may not be enough." The diplomatic team consisted of 7 representatives from the most powerful species in the galaxy. Each had been selected for their patience, composure, and experience with difficult species. But humans were unlike any species they had encountered before. "Remember your training," Scathun told his team. "Humans are emotionally volatile. They speak loudly, move suddenly, and often touch each other. We must not show our discomfort." The ship landed smoothly on the designated pad in Washington, D.C. Through the viewport, they could see a group of humans waiting. Some were shifting their weight from foot to foot. Others were talking and making large gestures with their hands. One was even jogging in place. "By the ancient stars," whispered Vrutep, the Centaurian diplomat. "They cannot even stand still for a diplomatic greeting." The ship's ramp extended downward. Ambassador Scathun led the procession, moving with careful, measured steps as he had done at 1,000 diplomatic meetings before. The other diplomats followed in perfect formation, maintaining exactly 3 feet between each of them. A human stepped forward from the Earth delegation. His face was split by what the briefing materials identified as a smile, exposing his teeth in what Scathun had to remind himself was not a sign of aggression on this planet. "Welcome to Earth. I'm Jack Summers, former astronaut and head of the Earth diplomatic team. Man, we are so pumped to meet you folks." The man's voice was so loud that Scathun's translator implant automatically lowered the volume. Before Scathun could begin the formal greeting ritual, the human closed the distance between them and slapped him firmly on the back. The ambassador gasped, his color-changing skin flashing bright yellow in shock. Physical contact without consent was taboo in nearly every galactic culture. He fought to maintain his composure as his heart raced dangerously. "It is an honor to," Scathun began, but was interrupted by another human. "I'm Olivia Grant, United Nations Special Envoy," said a female human, stepping forward and extending her hand. "Don't mind Jack, he's just excited. We all are." The diplomats had practiced the strange human custom of handshaking extensively, but the actual sensation of warm human skin was more disturbing than the simulations. Scathun carefully touched the woman's hand, trying not to flinch. "We have prepared the traditional 7-hour greeting ceremony," Scathun said stiffly. "If we may proceed to your ceremonial chamber." Jack and Olivia looked at each other and laughed loudly. The sound caused several of the alien diplomats to step backward involuntarily. 7 hours. No way, we got a quick welcome speech, and then we're taking you to lunch. Hope you've studied our food compatibility charts, because the president is hosting a barbecue in your honor. The word barbecue was not in Scathun's cultural database. He glanced at his fellow diplomats in alarm. "But the ceremonial protocols," began Selmara, the Proximan representative. "We can do all that formal stuff later," Jack said, waving his hand dismissively. "First, let's get to know each other. Hey, can your species eat ice cream? Because we've set up an amazing dessert bar." As the humans led them toward a large vehicle, talking rapidly and all at once, Ekava, the youngest diplomat, leaned toward Scathun. "Ambassador," she whispered, "I believe our cultural preparation may have been insufficient." Scathun could only nod weakly as he watched a human child nearby bouncing up and down while waving a small flag. Somehow, he suspected that all his centuries of diplomatic experience had not prepared him for Earth. The next morning, Ambassador Scathun and his team gathered in their temporary quarters. They had spent most of the night reviewing their diplomatic failures from the day before. The humans showed no respect for the ancient greeting rituals, said Selmora, her feathered crest flattened in distress. And they served food containing stimulants. You mean the coffee cake? Asked Vrutep. I analyzed it after Ekavos nearly consumed some. It contained enough stimulants to keep our species awake for 3 days. Ambassador Scathun raised his hand for silence. Today we begin formal negotiations. We must adapt to their unpredictable nature. Remember your training. The alien delegation arrived at the meeting hall precisely on time. The room was empty except for a young human male arranging papers. Oh, hey there, the human said. I'm Greg, the assistant. Everyone else should be here soon. Soon? Scathun questioned. The meeting is scheduled to begin now. Greg laughed. Yeah, but no one's ever on time for these things. Secretary Powell usually runs about 10 minutes late. Can I get you folks some coffee or water? The aliens declined and took their seats in perfect formation. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. Scathun could feel his skin changing color with stress despite his efforts to remain calm. After 34 minutes, the door burst open. A human female walked in talking loudly into a small device. Tell him I'll call back after the alien thing. Yes, yes. Gotta go. She put the device away and smiled at the aliens. Hi there. Heather Powell, Secretary of State. Sorry for the delay. Morning traffic was brutal. The aliens rose and performed their carefully rehearsed greeting bow. Secretary Powell nodded quickly and sat down, opening a folder while sipping from a large cup. Let's get started, shall we? I've got another meeting in 40 minutes. Scathun blinked all 4 of his eyes in confusion. Respected Secretary, our agenda requires 3 hours for the initial protocols alone. 3 hours for introductions. Not happening. She took another sip. How about we do quick introductions and get to the actual issues? The aliens looked at each other in alarm. Without the proper ceremonial exchanges, how could they establish the correct hierarchies and boundaries? More humans entered the room. One arrived eating something that smelled strongly of garlic. Another was laughing loudly at something on a small screen. None of them appeared to notice the aliens' discomfort. Let me introduce Ryan Bennett, my chief of staff, said Secretary Powell, gesturing to a tall human male who immediately began eating a pastry, dropping crumbs on the table. Scathun watched in horror as the human violated at least 6 diplomatic taboos within seconds. He carefully placed his trembling hands under the table. We would like to present our credentials and establish the proper diplomatic channels, Scathun began, his voice strained but even. Great, just email those over, said Ryan between bites. Let's talk technology sharing. That's what we're all really here for, right? Ekava, the junior diplomat, quietly pressed a calming herb to her skin glands. She had been studying humans more carefully than the others and whispered to Scathun, I believe they consider this normal efficiency, Ambassador. The meeting continued in chaos. Humans interrupted each other constantly. They asked direct questions that would be considered deeply rude in galactic culture. They took unscheduled breaks to answer their communication devices. By the time lunch arrived, an hour earlier than the schedule indicated, Scathun was struggling to maintain consciousness. The carefully prepared negotiation trees he had memorized were useless when humans jumped randomly between topics. We will now break for the midday meal, announced Secretary Powell, standing suddenly. We've got a great lunch spread in the next room. Hope you all like sandwiches. As the humans filed out, chatting and laughing, the alien diplomats remained seated, trying to process what had happened. How can we negotiate with beings who don't follow any protocols? Whispered Selmara. Scathun had no answer. In all his centuries of diplomacy, he had never encountered such chaos. Yet somehow, these humans had achieved faster-than-light travel while behaving like untrained younglings. It was most perplexing indeed. After 3 days of difficult meetings, the alien diplomats were ready for a rest day. They planned to spend it in quiet meditation at their quarters. Ambassador Scathun had just begun his calming exercises when his communication device buzzed. Ambassador, it's Lieutenant Samantha Cole from the Earth delegation. We've planned a special outing to show you some real American culture. Scathun's skin turned a pale green. Lieutenant, we had not scheduled any activities for today. Exactly. That's why it's perfect. We'll pick you up in 30 minutes. Dress casually. Before Scathun could object, she ended the call. He gathered his team for an emergency meeting. What does dress casually mean? Asked Vrutep with worry. Our formal diplomatic robes are the only proper attire for public appearances. And what is this real American culture they wish to show us? Added Selmara. The briefing materials mentioned many dangerous human pastimes. Only Ekavos seemed slightly excited. Perhaps this will help us understand them better, she suggested. When Lieutenant Cole arrived with a group of smiling humans in what appeared to be very informal clothing, the aliens were still wearing their ceremonial robes. They were led to several large vehicles. We're taking you to the county fair, announced Samantha. It's got everything. Rides, games, food, animals. You'll love it. 2 hours later, Ambassador Scathun stood frozen in horror as he watched humans willingly strap themselves into a metal contraption that flung them through the air at terrifying speeds. It's called a roller coaster, explained Kevin Walsh, a member of the human diplomatic team. Want to try it? The line isn't too long. Our species finds rapid acceleration. Uncomfortable, Scathun said carefully. That's the whole point, Kevin laughed. The fear makes it fun. Nearby, Trilith was scanning a human child who had just exited the ride. Their adrenaline levels are extremely elevated, she reported quietly to Scathun. Yet they appear to be experiencing pleasure. Humans seek fear for enjoyment. Selmara asked, her voice shaking. This explains much about their approach to diplomacy. The aliens moved through the fair in tight formation, trying to avoid the crowds of loud, fast-moving humans. Children ran past them, sticky with sugar. Somewhere, an animal made a loud bellowing noise. Now this is what you've got to try, said Samantha, leading them to a food stand. Deep-fried butter on a stick. It's a fair classic. Medical Officer Trilith scanned the food and backed away. The caloric content would kill 3 of our kind, she whispered. A new human approached, carrying small paper cups. We're having a hot sauce competition over there, said the man, pointing to a tent. Want to try our mildest entry? Before anyone could stop her, Ekavos took a cup and sipped it. Her skin immediately flashed bright red, and she made a choking sound. Water. She needs water, shouted Scathun as the young diplomat gasped for air. The humans rushed to help, looking concerned but also somewhat amused. After Ekavos recovered, Samantha suggested they try something more relaxing. This turned out to be an event called a demolition derby, where humans deliberately crashed vehicles into each other while spectators cheered. I don't understand, Scathun said to Kevin as they watched. These vehicles are designed for safe transport. Why destroy them for entertainment? Kevin shrugged. Because it's awesome to watch things smash together. Don't you have any dangerous sports where you come from? We eliminated danger from our society 12,000 years ago, Scathun replied. As the sun began to set, the humans led them to an open field. The fireworks are about to start, Samantha said with excitement. Best view is right here. Fireworks? Asked Vrutep nervously. The question was answered by a loud boom and flash of light in the sky. The alien diplomats dropped to the ground in terror, certain they were under attack. Meanwhile, the humans around them cheered and pointed at the explosions overhead. Ekavos was the first to raise her head and look up. The colors spreading across the dark sky were actually quite beautiful, even if the noise was painful. They create explosions for beauty, she said with wonder. How strange these humans are. Ambassadors Cthulhu watched the humans' faces, illuminated by the dangerous lights above. They seemed so happy surrounded by noise, danger, and chaos. It was most puzzling indeed. The fourth day of diplomatic meetings focused on trade agreements. Ambassadors Cthulhu felt slightly more prepared, having studied human negotiation tactics overnight. His team sat in perfect formation across from the human representatives. Frank Morris, the lead human trade negotiator, smiled broadly. "Let's get down to business, shall we?" For the first hour, things proceeded with unexpected smoothness. The humans presented their terms, the aliens presented theirs. It was almost civilized. Then Lisa Rodriguez, another human negotiator, disagreed with Frank about the terms for mineral rights. "That's ridiculous, Frank. We can't give them access to our rare earth deposits without better technology sharing," she said loudly. Frank's face turned red. "The technology sharing is in Section 7, if you had bothered to read it." Ambassadors Cthulhu watched in shock as the two humans began arguing intensely. In galactic diplomatic circles, such a display would end careers and possibly trigger interplanetary incidents. He prepared to call for an emergency recess. "Let's take 5, said Daniel Wright, another human diplomat. "Frank, Lisa, coffee?" To Cthulhu's amazement, the three humans left the room together. When they returned 5 minutes later, Lisa and Frank were laughing about something called baseball, as if they had never argued. Zelmara leaned towards Cthulhu. "Have they been replaced with duplicates?" she whispered. The meeting continued. Daniel Wright began describing why certain human colonies needed protection under the treaty. As he spoke about his grandfather, who had been a mining colonist, his eyes filled with water and his voice became shaky. "My grandfather died defending those colonies," he said, wiping his eyes. The aliens exchanged alarmed glances. Public emotional displays were deeply taboo in their cultures. Surely this human would be removed from the negotiations after such a lapse. But a moment later, Daniel was calmly proposing a complex trade arrangement, as if nothing had happened. The other humans didn't seem to notice anything unusual. During a break, Cthulhu approached Amanda Peters, the human psychologist assigned to the diplomatic team. "I must ask about human emotional states," he said carefully. "Your negotiators display extreme emotional shifts within minutes. Is this normal?" Amanda smiled. "Absolutely normal. Humans compartmentalize our emotions. We can feel deeply about something, express it, and then shift focus quickly. It doesn't mean the emotion wasn't genuine. But in diplomatic settings, we actually value emotional honesty in negotiations. It builds trust," she explained. "Don't you express emotions in your culture?" "Not without careful planning," Cthulhu replied. "A diplomatic emotional display is rehearsed for days to ensure proper intensity and duration." Amanda looked surprised. "That sounds exhausting." When the meeting resumed, Cthulhu paid close attention to the humans' emotional patterns. He noticed something strange. They used emotional displays as negotiation tools, becoming passionate when discussing important points and relaxed when conceding others. Even more confusing was when one human said, "That technology sharing proposal is just out of this world." And everyone laughed. His translator indicated the statement was factually incorrect, but the humans seemed to find joy in this. "They are using imprecise language deliberately," noted Vrutep with confusion. Later, the human named Frank said something that caused great laughter. "If we give them any more mining rights, we'll be digging our own grave." Cthulhu was bewildered. Why would trade agreements involve burial practices? Only Ekavos seemed to understand. "I believe it is a joke," she whispered, "an intentional language error for amusement." Vrutep decided to attempt human humor. During a discussion about food exports, he said stiffly, "If we take more of your wheat, we will be biting off more than we can chew." The room went silent. Then the humans burst into loud laughter. Cthulhu was horrified by his colleague's breach of protocol, but the humans seemed delighted. "That was perfect," said Lisa. wiping tears from her eyes. "You guys are getting the hang of us." As the meeting ended, Scathun realized something troubling. He was beginning to anticipate the humans' emotional shifts. Even worse, he was starting to find their unpredictability somewhat interesting. Ambassador Scathun was awakened by an urgent call in the middle of the night. On the screen, Jack Summers looked worried. "Ambassador, we have a situation. A small group of protesters has gathered outside the diplomatic compound. They don't welcome aliens on Earth. Security is handling it, but I wanted to inform you personally." Scathun immediately activated the emergency protocols. He gathered his team in their meeting room, all still wearing their sleep garments. "We must implement the standard crisis response procedure," he announced. "Step 1 is to form a risk assessment committee." "Should we not contact the human authorities first?" asked Ekavov. "That is step 17, replied Scathun, checking his protocol manual. "First, we must properly categorize the threat level." As the aliens began their careful process, a loud alarm sounded. On their security screens, they could see more humans joining the protest. Some carried signs with unfriendly messages. "The threat appears to be growing," noted Selmara nervously. "We should accelerate to step 4. A knock at their door interrupted them. Commander Paul Rivera of the Earth Security Team entered without waiting for permission. "Sorry to barge in," he said quickly. "We need to move you to a safer location. The protesters are becoming more aggressive." Scathun blinked all 4 eyes in confusion. "But we haven't completed our threat assessment. We must follow the proper 47 steps of crisis response." Commander Rivera stared at him. 47 steps. "We don't have time for that. There are people outside who might try to harm you. We need to move now." "But without proper procedure." "With all due respect, Ambassador," Paul interrupted, "sometimes you need to act quickly and adjust the plan as you go." The aliens looked at each other in horror. Adjust the plan. As they go. Before they could protest further, the security team was escorting them through a back corridor. Outside, they could hear chanting growing louder. "I have activated the emergency communication channel to our homeworld," said Trilith. "The High Council will convene in 3 days to advise us." Commander Rivera gave her an odd look. "In 3 days. This will be resolved in 3 hours." They were led to a secure bunker beneath the building. Inside, several humans were working at communication stations. One wall displayed multiple video feeds of the protest. "Stephanie is about to make a statement," Paul told them, pointing to a screen showing a woman preparing to speak to reporters. "But the diplomatic response has not been approved by our committee," protested Scathun. Paul shook his head. "Stephanie Warren is our press secretary. She's handled worse situations than this. Just watch." On screen, Stephanie stepped up to a group of reporters. She smiled confidently. "Good morning, everyone. Yes, we're aware of the concerns some citizens have expressed about our galactic visitors. Let me be clear, these diplomats came in peace and have been nothing but respectful guests. And hey, I was pretty nervous about meeting aliens too. My first question was whether they'd want to eat my cat." The reporters laughed. Stephanie continued with a personal story about her grandfather's fear of technology, then smoothly transitioned to discussing the benefits of the alien visit. She answered questions quickly, sometimes with humor and sometimes with firm seriousness. "She is going completely off script," whispered Vrutep in amazement. "She's reading the crowd and adjusting her message," explained Paul. "That's how we handle crisis." Within an hour, the protest began to disperse. Some humans even started counter-protesting in favor of the aliens, holding signs welcoming them to Earth. "The situation appears to be resolving itself," said Selmara with surprise, "without implementing even half of the crisis protocols." Ekavos had been quietly taking notes the entire time. "The humans use emotion as a tool," she observed. Stephanie connected with the humans' feelings first, then addressed the logical points. By evening, the crisis was over. The aliens returned to their quarters, deeply confused by what they had witnessed. Their approach was chaotic and improvised, said Zethun, and yet it worked better than our careful procedures would have. Perhaps, suggested Ekavos carefully, there is value in their chaos that we do not yet understand. Scathun touched his calming stone, trying to center his thoughts. What if the young diplomat was right? What if there was something to learn from these unpredictable, emotional creatures? The thought was both disturbing and strangely exciting. After 2 weeks on Earth, the alien delegation decided it was time to share their own cultures with the humans. They spent 3 days preparing a formal cultural exchange event. Each diplomat created a perfect presentation about their civilization's greatest achievements. Remember, instructed Ambassador Scathun, we must show the humans that despite their technological advances, they still have much to learn about galactic civilization and proper conduct. The event was scheduled in a large conference hall. The aliens arrived 2 hours early to ensure everything was perfectly arranged. The presentation tables were exactly 3 feet apart. The visual displays showed precisely timed transitions between images. The refreshments were arranged by color and nutritional value. As the humans began to arrive, the aliens took their positions. Ambassador Scathun felt a small measure of satisfaction. Finally, an event that would proceed according to plan. Welcome, honored Earth representatives. He began when everyone was seated. Today we will share with you the cultural achievements of our 7 worlds, beginning with a history of galactic diplomatic protocols that dates back 12,000 years. He had just activated the first visual display when the doors at the back of the room opened. A small human child walked in, looking around with wide eyes. "Wow! Real aliens!" the child exclaimed loudly. The formal atmosphere of the event shattered instantly. Scathun froze in mid-sentence. Lily, there you are, called a human female who hurried in after the child. "I'm so sorry, Ambassador. My daughter was very excited about the aliens and slipped away from the childcare room." Instead of removing the child as protocol would demand, the woman simply took a seat at the back of the room with the young human. "That's okay, let her stay," said Jack Summers, smiling at the child. "Lily, do you have any questions for our alien friends?" Scathun's skin turned pale yellow with shock. Questions? From a child? During a formal presentation, the small human raised her hand. "Do you have kids on your planet? What games do they play?" The carefully planned cultural presentation was completely derailed. Other humans began asking questions too. They wanted to know about alien families, schools, and games. No one seemed interested in diplomatic history or artistic achievements. "Perhaps we could answer a few questions before continuing with the formal presentation," suggested Ekavos, seeing Scathun's distress. "We do have offspring," Vrutep told the child stiffly. "They study mathematics and diplomatic history from an early age." "Don't they ever just play?" asked Lily, looking disappointed. The question silenced the room. The concept of just play without educational purpose was foreign to the alien cultures. More children arrived, apparently invited by someone in the human delegation. Soon the formal event had transformed into something chaotic, but strangely energetic. Children and adults asked questions about everything from alien food to what the aliens thought of Earth music. "Do your kids have toys?" asked a small boy. "We have educational devices," answered Selmara. "Can I show you my toy?" The boy held up a colorful object. Before the alien could refuse, several children were showing their toys to the diplomats. Ekavos cautiously accepted a small stuffed animal from a young girl. "This is a representation of an Earth creature," she asked. "It's a teddy bear," the girl explained. "He keeps me safe at night. An inanimate object cannot provide protection," Trilith pointed out. "Not real protection," the girl said patiently, as if explaining to someone very simple. "He makes me feel safe." Ambassador Scathun watched as his carefully planned event collapsed into an impromptu exchange dominated by the youngest, least important humans. He should have been upset. Instead, he found himself fascinated by the children's curious questions, which were often more direct and insightful than those from the adult diplomats. "Your young ones ask questions without filters," he observed to Jack Summers. "That's the beauty of kids," Jack replied. "They haven't learned to overthink things yet. Sometimes the simplest questions are the most important ones." As Sci-Fi watched Ekavos tentatively playing a clapping game with two human children, he realized something unexpected. He was learning more about humans from this chaos than from all the formal meetings combined. The final day of the diplomatic mission arrived faster than expected. The alien delegation gathered in their private chamber to prepare their official report for the Galactic Council. Their recommendation would determine Earth's future relationship with the wider galactic community. "We must be honest about the challenges," said Ambassador Sci-Fi, his skin a thoughtful shade of blue. "Humans are unpredictable, emotional, and show little respect for proper procedures. They are dangerous," added Selmara. "They enjoy activities that create fear and risk injury." "Their communication style is confusing," said Vrutep. "They say things they don't mean for humor and express strong emotions without warning." Around the table, most of the delegation nodded in agreement. Only Ekavos remained quiet, reviewing her personal notes. "You disagree, junior diplomat?" asked Sci-Fi. Ekavos looked up. "I have been studying them closely, Ambassador. What we see as flaws may actually be strengths. Their adaptability, their comfort with change, their emotional connections. These qualities have helped them advance quickly as a species. Yet they live in constant disorder," countered Trilith. "Perhaps some disorder is necessary for growth," replied Ekavos. "Our own civilizations have been stable for thousands of years, but have we truly advanced in that time?" The room fell silent as the aliens considered this uncomfortable question. Their discussion was interrupted by Jack Summers, who arrived to escort them to the final dinner. "Ready for the big farewell. Everyone's excited to see you one last time." The final dinner was scheduled in an elegant hall with views of the city. When they arrived, the room was perfectly arranged with beautiful decorations and soft music. Ambassador Sci-Fi felt relieved. Perhaps the humans had finally learned the value of proper ceremony. He was preparing his carefully written speech when suddenly the lights went out. The room plunged into darkness. Sci-Fi felt his heart racing in panic. Around him, he could hear the other diplomats making distressed sounds. But the humans reacted differently. "Power outage," called Jack's voice from the darkness. "No worries, folks. Let's get some candles going." Within minutes, humans were moving through the darkness with small lights from their devices. They placed candles around the room, creating a warm, flickering glow. Instead of panic, there was laughter. "Change of plans," announced Olivia Grant. "We're moving this party outside to the garden. The kitchen staff is setting up a barbecue." The aliens watched in amazement as the humans quickly reorganized everything. Tables were carried outside. Food preparation moved to outdoor cooking devices. Someone found a musical instrument and began playing. "This is most irregular," whispered Selmara. "The formal dinner protocol cannot be followed now." Yet as they moved outside under the stars, the aliens noticed something strange. The event felt more genuine, more connected. Humans talked in smaller groups. The candlelight made everyone lean in closer to see each other. The less formal setting encouraged more honest conversation. Heather Powell approached Ambassador Sci-Fi with a glass in her hand. "Sometimes the best moments happen when plans fall apart," she said with a smile. "Don't you think this is better than another stuffy formal dinner?" Looking around at the scene, humans and aliens talking together under the stars, the sound of laughter mixing with music, Sci-Fi was surprised to realize she was right. Despite the complete absence of protocol, or perhaps because of it, this felt like the most successful diplomatic event of their visit. Later that night, the alien delegation gathered again to finalize their report. Ambassador Sci-Fi looked at his team. "I believe we have been measuring humans by the wrong standards," he said slowly. Their chaos is not a flaw. It is the source of their creativity, their resilience, and their rapid growth. Are you suggesting we recommend full diplomatic relations? Asked Vrutep in surprise. I am suggesting more than that, replied Skathun. I believe we need to learn from them, as much as they need to learn from us. Perhaps the galaxy has become too orderly, too predictable. Perhaps we need a little human chaos. As they prepared to leave Earth the next morning, Ambassador Skathun found himself doing something very undiplomatic. He was looking forward to returning home and creating a small, unexpected disruption in the perfect order of his own world.